My name is Sarah, and that evening I realized my family saw me merely as a source of income. A video revealing all their secret conversations forever changed my view of what a true family is. I always believed that family was the most important. By the age of 30, I had achieved significant success, managing marketing at a tech firm in Chicago, living in a cozy apartment, and having enough resources to support my loved ones. I'm not claiming to be a genius, but hard work brought me to where I am today. Mom and Dad raised me and my younger sister Emily in a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. Dad worked as a builder, and Mom was an administrator at a beauty salon. Though they were not wealthy, they always provided for us. Emily was the life of the party, bright, funny, and outgoing. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one, buried in books, spending the week studying while Emily enjoyed parties. Typical sibling dynamics, I suppose. 5 years ago, Emily met Mike, and it was love at first sight. A year later, they had a small wedding, which I helped finance. Mike works in sales but often changes jobs. They always lacked money, but never missed a chance to post travel photos on social media. As for me, I'm currently single. My work is my priority, taking up most of my time, and I'm okay with that. My job pays well, allowing me to help my family when necessary, and that need arises often. 3 years ago, when my parents struggled with mortgage payments, I stepped in to help. "It's temporary," Dad said, blushing, "until we stabilize." I didn't mind. I knew I could afford it. They were my parents. Letting the bank take their home? Of course not. Later, Emily and Mike couldn't keep up with their rent. "Just a few months?" Emily assured, her wide eyes pleading. Those months turned into years, but I never complained. There was always a new request, a new fridge when the old one broke, unexpected car repairs, concert tickets Emily couldn't miss. I never said no. Today is Mom's 65th birthday, and I wanted to make it special for her. I rented a room at Bellini's, her favorite Italian restaurant, inviting all her friends and relatives. The dinner bill promised to be significant, but this wasn't the only surprise. I also organized a gift, a 10-day trip to Mexico for her and Dad, covering all expenses, from flights to hotels and excursions. They had never traveled abroad, and I hoped it would be an unforgettable experience. As I was wrapping the gift certificate at home, my phone signaled an incoming email. The sender was unknown, with the subject "Family Dinner, take a look." "Probably spam," I muttered, about to delete it, but something stopped me. Maybe it was a prank from Emily, who might have edited family moments for Mom's birthday. It was her style, to steal attention with something touching and creative, while I stuck to practical gifts. I opened the email. It was brief. "Be sure to watch this video from last week's dinner." The attached file was a video. For a second, I hesitated, mentally running a quick virus check, but curiosity won, and I clicked play. On the screen appeared my parents' dining room. The image was slightly shaky, but clear enough to see someone filming from a corner. Mom, Dad, Emily, Mike, and several other relatives sat around the table. Wine glasses reflected the overhead light, and everyone was laughing merrily. Then I heard my name. "Sarah will come to the birthday, right?" asked Uncle Robert. Mom rolled her eyes. "Of course she'll come. She pays for everything." Laughter spread around. Feeling a knot in my stomach, I kept watching. "How do you even live with her?" Mike said, pouring more wine into his glass. "She's so boring." "Tell me about it," Mom responded, and I felt like I'd been punched. Every conversation turns into a lecture about saving or career growth. No boyfriends, no hobbies, just work, work, work. Yet she got that big promotion, noted Emily, shaking her head. Still don't get how she did it. A bit perverted. Mike snorted. Maybe she slept her way to it, if you know what I mean. Everyone burst into laughter, including my own father. I felt a wave of nausea. My fingers trembled so much that I almost dropped the phone. The worst part was watching Mom swirl her wine and continue. We have to pretend to be impressed by her achievements. Oh, Sarah got another promotion. Oh, Sarah bought a new car, as if we care. But we need her money, Dad added, lowering his voice, but it was still audible. What if she stops helping? He asked. We'll be on our knees with that mortgage, Mom replied, and Emily and Mike would be out on the street. It's like taxes, Emily sighed theatrically. We smile and nod to her boring stories, and in return, she covers our bills. Seen her apartment? Mom continued. All that money, and it looks like a furniture showroom. No hint of personality, just like her. I paused the video, unable to watch further. My hands trembled, tears burned my eyes. Each word cut like a knife. The gift box with the trip to Mexico stood before me, suddenly feeling pitiful. I had spent weeks planning this surprise, anticipating Mom's reaction. And all this time. My phone pinged again, the reminder for Mom's birthday dinner. I sat for hours staring at it, feeling hollow inside. My initial impulse was to cancel everything, retreat to my bed, and never see them again. But as the initial shock began to fade, another impulse took its place. Rage. Pure and consuming. They wanted my money, not me. Fine. I'd give them one last act of generosity and then nothing more. I spent the next hour reviewing video clips, compiling evidence of my family's financial dependence on me. My banking app clearly showed regular transfers for my parents' mortgage, regular payments for Emily and Mike's rent, dozens of emergency transfers when they claimed they were in dire straits. Over the past 2 years, I had spent over $100,000 on my family. Seeing this amount in black and white made me feel physically weak, not because of the money. I gave it willingly, but because of what it represented. Years of manipulation. I printed every transaction, organizing them by recipient and date. Then I took the itinerary for the trip to Mexico and drew a thick red line through it, writing "canceled" in bold letters across the page. I placed everything back in the gift box originally prepared for Mom's birthday, wrapping it in the same beautiful paper. On the outside, it looked identical to what I had planned to give her just hours ago, but inside, it was entirely different. Calming down gradually, I wondered who might have sent the video. The camera angle suggested it was recorded by someone sitting at the table. Who could betray my family's trust this way, and why send it to me now? Whatever the reason, I was grateful for the truth, however painful it might be. I loaded the video onto my phone, readying it for the restaurant. My hands stopped trembling, leaving place for cold resolve. I checked my appearance in the bathroom mirror. Outwardly, I looked the same as always, perhaps a bit paler. No visible signs of the emotional blow that had hollowed out my world. The drive to Bellini's took 20 minutes. The restaurant's private dining room was already in full swing when I arrived. Mom sat at the head of the table in a blue dress I had given her last Christmas. Dad was beside her, holding her shoulder. Emily and Mike stood with glasses of champagne, chatting gaily with the relatives. Everything looked perfect, loving. Upon seeing me, Mom smiled, but to me, she now seemed insincere. She hurried up to me and hugged me. "Sarah, you're finally here." I was starting to worry. I returned her hug mechanically. "Happy birthday, Mom." I made my way to the table and took my seat, carefully placing the gift box next to me. Let it wait for the right moment. Waiters brought appetizers, and conversations flowed around me. I hardly participated, giving minimal answers when addressed directly. No one seemed to notice my silence, or they attributed it to what they commonly referred to as my boring personality. Mom tinkled her glass to get everyone's attention. "Before we really get started, I want to thank my wonderful daughter Sarah for organizing this lovely dinner. She's always so generous." Everyone turned simultaneously, their gazes filled with deceptive gratitude, calculations that were now clear to me. Appetizers gave way to main courses, and then desserts. I watched it all with new clarity. When Dad mentioned plans for a kitchen remodel, I caught a quick exchange of looks with Mom, another project they intended to place on my shoulders. When it was time to give gifts, relatives brought customary scented candles, jewelry, and gift-wrapped wines for Mom. She accepted each gift with feigned delight. Finally, it was my turn. "Before I present my gift," I said, standing up, "I'd like to share something with you." The room fell silent. I pulled out my phone and hooked it up to a small projector I had requested, assuring them I wanted to show some family photos. "I received an interesting video today," I continued, surprisingly evenly. "I think you'll all find it enlightening." I pressed play. The familiar scene appeared on the wall. My family around the table, glasses of wine in hand. I watched as their faces shifted from puzzlement to shock and horror when their voices filled the room, revealing their true feelings about me. Mom's face paled. Dad stared at the floor. Emily's mouth hung open in disbelief. Other relatives squirmed uncomfortably. Some averted their eyes from the screen. Others couldn't tear themselves away from the unfolding disaster. When I finally stopped the video, absolute silence hung in the room. Mom was the first to speak. "Sarah, you misunderstood. We were just joking." "It's fake," Emily hastily added. "Some sinner used AI to fake our voices." "Yeah, exactly," Mike nodded vigorously. "It's clearly a lie." The rest of the relatives murmured agreement, eager to escape the irrevocable situation. Everyone wanted to believe it was just editing, that family couldn't be so two-faced. But a voice from the back of the room shattered this hope. "It's not fake." Everyone turned to Aunt Linda, Mom's sister. She stood, squaring her shoulders. "I recorded that video last weekend," she declared. "Every word is true." Mom's shock turned to rage. "You did this? How dare you?" "I've listened to how you talk about Sarah for too long," Aunt Linda replied. "I couldn't take it anymore." She pulled out several sheets of paper from her bag. "And here's a printout of your secret chat that Sarah knows nothing about." She handed the papers around the table. I took one, my hands numb. It was a screenshot from a messaging app with the names of my family. "Mom said Sarah is paying for the restaurant for my birthday. We should hint about a new washing machine next week," the paper read. Emily: "Good idea. Mike needs new tires, too." Dad: "Don't push too fast. Let her think it's her idea." Mike: "Just praise her promotions. It works every time, LOL." Looking up from the paper, I saw Mom's face twisted with anger. "This is a breach of privacy," she yelled at Aunt Linda. "You couldn't share our private conversations. I can sue you." "Besides, Mom, I haven't given you your gift yet," I said, cutting off her tirade. I pushed the box towards her. "Open it." With trembling hands, she tore the paper and lifted the lid. Her eyes widened at the sight of the canceled trip to Mexico and the stack of financial records. 436, I announced loudly. That's how much I've spent on my family over the past 2 years. And this is how you thanked me. I stood up, grabbing my bag. From now on, you're on your own. Mom, if you sue Aunt Linda, I'll hire the best attorney to defend her. Chaos erupted in the room. Mom burst into tears. Dad tried to console her. Emily screamed that I was selfish and cruel. Some relatives looked ashamed. Others enjoyed the drama. I drove home in a daze, barely recognizing the traffic lights and other cars. My phone kept vibrating. Texts, calls, voice messages, all from my family. I ignored them. Once home, I locked the door behind me and collapsed on the couch. The numbness melted away, giving space to a storm of emotions: betrayal, resentment, anger, shame. Was I so hungry for family affection that I consciously turned a blind eye to their manipulations? How had I not seen it before? I stumbled into the bathroom and turned the shower on as hot as I could stand. Steam filled the room, and I stepped under the water, hoping it would wash away the memory of their faces, voices laughing at my expense. But it didn't help. Emerging from the shower, I saw my phone displaying 24 missed calls and twice as many text messages. I skimmed through them. Mom, please call me. It's all a misunderstanding. Dad, you're misinterpreting everything. We need to talk. Emily, how could you humiliate us like that? You're selfish. Mike, your sister is crying because of you. Hope you're happy. The messages grew more desperate throughout the night. Mom, we never meant to hurt you. Please respond. Dad, the mortgage payment is due next week. We need to discuss this. Emily, you know we can't afford rent without you. Don't be cruel. I had never ignored their calls before. I'd always been there for them, ready to help, but no more. I opened my banking app and canceled all regular transfers to my parents and sister, then blocked their numbers on my phone. For the first time in years, I felt I could breathe freely. My apartment, which Mom criticized for lacking personality, suddenly felt like a sanctuary. Every piece of decor, every ornament reflected my own choices, not others' expectations. The next morning, I woke feeling light, despite having hardly slept. I went to work, immersed myself in projects, and somehow got through the day without checking my phone even once. 2 days passed. I kept busy, avoiding social media, and tried not to think about how my family was managing without my financial support. On the 3rd day, I received a call from Aunt Linda. Sarah, can we meet and talk? We arranged to meet at a small cafe midway between our homes. When I arrived, she was already there with a cup of tea. She looked tired, but smiled when she saw me. I sat down across from her. Why did you do it? I asked without preamble. Aunt Linda sighed. I've watched them use you for years. At almost every family gathering, at nearly every holiday, they acted as if they admired you when you were around. But the masks came off the moment you left. She absent-mindedly stirred her tea. I wanted to say something many times, but you seemed happy. You believed in the image of a family that wasn't real, and I wasn't sure I had the right to shatter that illusion. I looked at the table. What changed? That dinner last week was the final straw. The things they said about you. I couldn't take it any longer. She recorded it impulsively, not knowing what to do with the footage. Then I found out about your big gift for Mom's birthday and realized I had to show you the reality before you spent even more on people who didn't appreciate you. We talked for over an hour. She told me about family dynamics I had never noticed, how my parents gradually increased financial demands over the years, how Emily learned to play on my desire to be close to my only sister. Patterns I had previously ignored suddenly became obvious in hindsight. When we parted, I hugged Aunt Linda tightly. "Thank you," I whispered, "for telling me the truth when no one else could." The days turned into weeks, then months. My life found a new rhythm. Work, spending time with friends, occasional dates, and finally having time for hobbies I had long postponed. I hadn't realized how much mental and emotional space my family occupied until they were gone from my life. Through distant relatives, I received snippets of news about the family. Mom and Dad struggled with their mortgage, missed 2 payments, and the bank sent them warnings. Emily and Mike had to move to a smaller apartment in a less prestigious area. I felt a pang of guilt for a moment, but it quickly turned into resolve. They were adults and would manage. Some relatives sided with the family, calling me cruel for stopping financial support, but others understood my position, especially those who witnessed the revelation at the birthday dinner. I maintained ties with the latter group, including Aunt Linda, who had become a sort of maternal figure to me. 6 months after the confrontation, I finished work and was about to leave the office building when I saw a familiar figure at the entrance. It was Emily. She looked thinner than I remembered, her hair pulled back into a messy ponytail. My first instinct was to turn and leave through another exit, but she had already spotted me. Steeling myself, I continued forward, my face serene. "Sarah," she called when I approached. "Please, just 5 minutes." I stopped a short distance from her. "What do you need, Emily?" She nervously twisted her hands. "I came to apologize. We were wrong in how we treated you." I said nothing, just waited. With Emily, there was always something else. "Mom and Dad are really having a hard time with the mortgage," she continued, her voice growing desperate. "And I'm 4 months pregnant. Mike and I had to move to a cheaper apartment because we couldn't afford ours anymore." I, as before, suspected her apology was insincere, and now it was confirmed. "Congratulations on the baby," I said evenly. "Is that all?" Tears filled her eyes. "Please, Sarah, we need your help. Just until the baby is born. We've learned from our mistakes, I swear." I looked at my sister, truly looked at her, and behind her tears and pregnancy, I saw the same calculation in her eyes that had been there when she previously asked for money. Nothing had changed except their circumstances. "No," I answered curtly. Her face hardened. "You're heartless. Your family is suffering, and you don't care." I walked past her to my car, her shouted insults following me to the parking lot. Once inside, I took a deep breath and started the engine. I felt nothing towards the sister I once loved. No anger, no pity, no sadness, just emptiness. A year passed since that meeting with Emily at the office, and life continued on its course. I received a promotion at work, spent more time outdoors, hiking on weekends, and even started dating a new person, Daniel, calm and thoughtful, who valued honesty above all. Through rare contacts with Aunt Linda and a few relatives with whom I still kept in touch, I occasionally received news about the family. Mom and Dad were still behind on mortgage payments, living under the constant threat of losing their home, but somehow managed for now. Emily had given birth to a son and moved back in with her parents to save money. Mike took on 2 jobs but continued to complain about lacking sufficient funds. They all had to adapt to life without my financial support, albeit not without challenges. Sometimes, usually late at night, I wondered if I was right to cut them off completely. It seemed harsh, perhaps excessive. But then I remembered that video, their laughing faces, mocking words, and my doubts disappeared. They never loved me, only what I could provide. And the difference between those two things is immense. Last Christmas, I received cards from Mom and Emily. Mom's was formal, almost businesslike, with no personal message. In Emily's card was a photo of her son, my nephew, and a note expressing hope that we might reconcile for his sake. Although neither directly mentioned money, the hints were clear between the lines. I didn't respond to the cards. At a spring dinner with Aunt Linda, she mentioned Mom was trying to rebuild the relationship, hoping for reconciliation. She says she realizes her mistakes, Aunt Linda related, her voice laced with skepticism. Says she misses you. I raised an eyebrow, doubtful. Did she mention that before or after asking about my financial situation? Aunt Linda gave a sad smile. After, of course. Some things never change. The following months brought even more attempts at contact. Emails from Dad explaining that it was all a misunderstanding, letters from Emily describing the difficulties of raising a child without adequate resources. Each message was carefully crafted to invoke guilt, yet none contained a direct plea for money. I deleted them without reply. One Sunday morning, I wandered through the farmer's market when I unexpectedly ran into Emily. She looked older, drained, with dark circles under her eyes. Her child, now a toddler, sat in the cart playing with a toy. For a moment we just stared at each other, both too surprised to speak. Her son looked at me with curious eyes that reminded me of my own in childhood photos. A small part of me winced, realizing I didn't know his name and probably never would. Emily was the first to speak, straightening her shoulders and giving a stiff nod. Sarah. Emily, I replied in a neutral tone. The child babbled something and reached for an apple from the stall. Emily, not taking her gaze off me, handed it to her son. I expected manipulative requests, perhaps tears or accusations. Instead, she simply said, We're managing on our own, you know, without your money. I'm glad to hear that, I replied, surprised to find that I genuinely meant it. She hesitated for a moment, then pulled her cart forward. Goodbye, Sarah. Goodbye, I echoed, watching them leave. This brief encounter moved me more than I expected, not because I missed them or regretted my decision, but because of the realization of how whole my life continued without them. They were now strangers, people I once knew and no longer needed. Spending the rest of the day at the farmer's market, I pondered how far I had come from the life I once thought was the only one possible. That evening, I walked along the waterfront, watching the sunset paint the river in pink and golden colors. I felt an inner peace that had no place in a past filled with demands and expectations. At work, a new beginning awaited me. I agreed to a project manager position for an important initiative, promising to be exciting and challenging. This promotion was the result of my efforts and dedication, not attempts to please someone else. My heart filled with pride for what I had created, for the independence that now defined my identity. Thanks to time and distance, I saw my family in a new light. They were part of my story, but not defining its parameters. I no longer felt bitterness, only a strange sense of gratitude for the lessons they had taught, albeit in a hard way. From time to time, I caught myself thinking about my nephew, how he was growing up, discovering the world. Perhaps one day, when he is older and if he wants, we can get to know each other. But that would be another story and another turn in life. For now, I was focused on the present, on new friends, the opportunities unfolding, and each day that belonged only to me. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.